I need to apply. I need to get a job in my field in order to get. So now I have a bit of a confusion as to where to look for a job. You know, getting a job is one thing, but getting it at the right place would is another thing. So that's why I have a bit of concern as to
Mhm.
yeah where to apply. You know, like in terms of states, like what states do I need to apply? Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. I obviously need a bit more context. Are you speaking in regards to like visa? Is there any requirement there from visa perspective, or what's the concern? I hear you say you're just rounding up your business information system program, and that's meant to be like a pathway through to something, correct? You need to work in your field,
Yeah.
and then that helps you to, yeah. So is there any requirement there? When I say requirement, like restrictions in terms of your region or things like that? Are we looking at things like that?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
speaker is a bit low. Your speaker is a bit low, Charles. I
Oh,
didn't hear the last thing you said.
yeah, I said something like that. Yeah.
you have to be clear because again, first of all, we are not migration agent, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is we need if you're saying that you have some restriction, we can't really provide advice or migration.
No, no. I was just asking if you have any insight. I know we're
No,
not.
you and I can catch up
No, no.
offline. We can catch up and talk about that. Is it
Yeah, yeah. But typically, I think the only restrictions will be like regional versus city, that kind of thing. If you have regional restriction, by all means, target your jobs to all the regional areas in Australia. And that's the best way. We have many people that have done that and they've been successful. So you just avoid Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Everywhere else you'll be able to apply to. It's as simple as that. But it means that what we talked about yesterday, you then need to do it a bit more seriously because you have a narrowed way. As you know, the major jobs are in Melbourne, Sydney. There are a lot more opportunity, not the major job. There are a lot more opportunity in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. Those are the capital cities that are big. But you can get in Adelaide, you can get in uh, Tasmania, you can get everywhere else really. And but you need to work hard in applying a lot.
You just need to be very strategic, and I would target organizations that have branches like in different places as well. Because typically, what that looks like is if you've seen a job where they said, oh, they've got a place in Adelaide and they've got somewhere in Brisbane or in Melbourne, typically they may allow you work from home, which then your contract may read your home address, which should be regional already anyway. So, I would look for things like that. If you see a company that has another branch in New Zealand, for example, I would target things like that. But in saying that, it just means you need to do that extra layer of reading, find out about the company, and where else do they have a company, right? That you can leverage on. Say if you apply and you find a very nice talent acquisition person and just tell them your situation, they'll be happy and say, look, you're quite skilled, which is where the skill would come into play as well. Because they've interviewed you, they love you, they just want to do that for you. I've had an organization bend that rule for me in the past. When I was working with Department of Education in Melbourne, that role typically you have to be in Melbourne. You need to live in Melbourne. But because the person that interviewed me really, really wanted to work with me as a Scrum Master then, he then said he was going to fight for me. So they allowed me to do that role from my house. And I never stepped my foot in Melbourne. So again, it's a combination of different things. You have to be personable, which is one of the things we'll be talking about today. From the lens of interview is not one way. And as a matter of fact, there's no blanket rule. There's a sprinkle of favor, there's a sprinkle of you factor, there's a sprinkle of you just putting in that work and pressing them, from the get-go, like, you've spoken to this interviewer, this person is absolutely, in awe of your skills, of, you as a person. They will bend all the rules for you, right? Like, they'll make sure Yeah, so make sure
Yeah,
you are the number one. So which is what we're going to be talking about today. Can we all confirm that we can see my screen?
yeah. We
Yes.
can catch up, Charles, a bit
Yeah.
more because I have similar experience as well personally, so I can advise you on the best way to approach it, right? So, yeah, no worries.
Okay. So how are we all doing today? Does anyone have any questions whatsoever? I know we probably have 1,000,001 questions, but do we have any pressing questions from yesterday's session before we move into today?
Yeah, I have a question. So it's more like, yeah, actually a question. So, it's from what we did yesterday. I did try my hands on using the job scan. Then
Okay.
I actually used the resume builder. I realized that it's not quite easy to tweak things around when you're using the resume builder, except maybe after using it, you have to download and put everything back to Microsoft Word, and then you'll be able to move things around and then do your your scan and all of that. So
So
that's one thing I observed about that, using the resume builder.
right, so I mean that's good discovery from your hand. I specifically didn't talk about that resume builder yesterday. The focus on that application, on that tool, is for you to scan your resume and see, where you're at in terms of the matching criteria, if that works for you. Personally, I've never tried resume builder on JobScan. I don't know what it looks like, but I do have a tool that can help with that, different from what JobScan would do, which I think would probably be better. But you have to be very
Okay.
careful with like resume builders as well, because yeah, some of them are not very ATS friendly. So you want to be sure that you're actually doing the right one. You're using the one that's not going to mess things up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, don't you just avoid resume builder for now, like because they kind of format your CV in a way that you will not be able, they want you to come back, right? And use it and use it and use it. So just stick to the template we share, like a plain Word document, so that when you want to change things, you can quickly change it without too much hassle. You're not going to be dealing with the mental, the border, the column, etc. You just change the text and then you use it. So we need to keep things simple so that we're more efficient.
Okay.
So avoid using resume builder, just use a plain Word document and then make sure you format it right and then submit.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Any other questions? None? Okay, great. I know some of us missed yesterday's session. The recording will be available, but just a quick summary on what we talked about. We talked about the usefulness of the job scan, which is a tool that helps you beat the applicant tracking system, right? So the applicant tracking system really helps recruiters to filter through and rank resumes against, their position description. So as you can imagine, 1,000 or 200 people, they've applied for this job. No one has got the time to go through all of these resumes. So they use, software to help them compare your resume to their job description, and then they rank the best. So any of the resume that fits or matches closely to what they're looking for, those are the ones that get picked up. So if you haven't gotten, picked up by the software, you would, for example, get something like, unfortunately, like, maybe a week after, or even some of them 2 seconds after. As soon as you load the application, you're getting, unfortunately. That's because the bot has, filtered you through what they're looking for, and I'm not a fit. So they would typically send that. And we talked about the relevance of your skills and experience. So please, if you haven't caught up with the video, we will be sharing that, and you have to catch up with that. If you've got any questions, we'll be more than happy to present you with answers. So just so we maximize our time properly. Now, for today's session, we're now going with the assumption that You've done a fantastic and a brilliant work. Now you're going for an interview, right? I've got this interview. A recruiter has called me. Now, I want us to have at the top of our mind, your interview starts from the very first time a recruiter speaks to you. From the very first time someone calls you and says, "Hi, Lola, my name is XYZ. I saw your resume and I just wanted to have a chat with you." That's the beginning of your interview. That's a time to actually sell yourself 100%. Like I said yesterday, if they've called you at a bad time, say for example, except you're driving and it's not safe, then I would tell them, I'm just trying to pull over. You just reset everything that you're doing. You put yourself back in the mood. You don't want to say, can I call you back tomorrow? Can I call you? Except it's absolutely impossible. If it is possible and it's safe to do that, I will just safely pull over and let them know, look, I'm driving, but I'm just trying to pull over so we can have a conversation. You don't want them to go, because when they leave, they'll call someone else. That's it, typically, most times, because they don't have a lot of time as well. And as we established yesterday, when organizations are recruiting, they need someone more like ASAP. They're not going to be doing recruitment for resourcing that they need in 2 months or in 3 months. So if they've called me and they're not getting any sense of urgency in my voice, or I don't seem, enthusiastic about what they're wanting, then they would go to the next person. And if recruiters do not tell you, okay, then no, that's fine, I'll just, call someone else. They'll just tell you, okay, yeah, all good, Lola. Thank you so much. I'll keep in touch. You may not hear back from them, or you may hear back from them, but we want to play on the side of caution. We want to ensure that we're positioning ourselves. So basically, your interview starts from the very first time a recruiter calls you. Once you start pumping applications, strange numbers are going to be calling you, and don't expect that it's going to be like a landline every time. Some of them will call you with just like the mobile phone, so it could be a 04 number. It doesn't have to be a 02 or a 03 landline. No, it could be just a number like you. So for some of us who do not pick strange calls, for example, please, once you start sending out applications, know that every call becomes a priority. Even if it's scam, it is. Like, I would still pick up and ensure that I can hear like a different voice trying to scam me, then I hand the call. But I would not ignore a call just because, well, I don't have this number saved on my phone. And another good thing to also do is to listen to your voicemails, okay? Once you start doing application and you've missed the call, don't just rush and call them back. Listen, if they've dropped you a voice message, listen to that voice message, because that will then prepare you. So when you're speaking to them, you're just downloading things. That's assuming that you've missed that phone call. Right. So your interview starts from the very first time that they've said, "Hi, Rachel, I'm calling you from Mac Solutions. I've seen your resume." You automatically reset into a business analyst mode, and you start to give them, he or she, or everything that they want. Even if they haven't asked you a question, you still want to sell yourself. I want us to keep in mind that every phone call is an opportunity to sell myself. I want to sell myself, right? Now, I know we're probably thinking, how do I then sell myself? Which is what we want to talk about today. For every interview, the beginning is always very crucial. That's not to say that, what happens in the middle of the interview isn't, but that very beginning, you know what they say about first impression. You want to give them an impression that, yes, I know my stuff. I'm the best person for this job. If you're not hiring me, you're losing out. That's the impression that you want to be creating. So it's a blend of your soft skills and your technical skills. Now, for those of us who are a bit on the calm side, we'll be like, very softy, calm, and all that stuff. You want to increase the tempo of your voice a bit. You want to use inferences and emotions. You don't just want to sound flat and boring. So you want to just put in more energy. That's what I'm trying to say. You want to put in a lot of energy, right? Now, when a recruiter calls me, what do I want to have in mind? What do I want to keep in mind? I want to show, number one, that yes, I'm prepared and I'm actually ready to do this job. I've sent out my resume because I'm ready to work. I've sent out my resume because there's no other person out there that is fit for this job but me. So you need to prove that. But that comes with a lot of preparation. Now, cognizant of the fact that, we've just come off training, learnings, and everything, it may be a bit overwhelming, which is why we have devised an approach called elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch has to be your bread and butter. It's like if someone says, how many siblings do you have? Right off, you're not thinking about it. You know how many siblings you have. If someone says, how many, tell me which university did you go to? You're not going to be thinking, oh my goodness, is it University of Newcastle? Is it? No, you know it. It's the same way we want you to approach this elevator pitch. You need to know it inside out. And that's why we cannot create it for you, but we'll give you the template. You will be the creator of this. You'll be the custodian of this pitch. There's going to be different paths that you're going to be needing this elevator pitch. The first one is when they call you. You want to download a part of this pitch to them. Once you go for the interview, the very first thing that's coming out of your mouth is your elevator pitch. Now, when you're successful and you've gotten this job, when you start working, first day at work, oh, this is the new business analyst. Her name is Lola. Someone's going to say, oh, hi, Lola, lovely to meet you. So what project have you worked on in the past? You need to be ready to answer that as well. So which organization were you before? Oh, I'm an ex-Westpac person. I worked on XYZ project. You also want to be ready. So this elevator pitch is going to be highly important in the course of your journey. And you need to be able to download it anywhere you go to, especially to get into the door. Now, there are 10 parts that this thing would cover. And we're going to talk through it in a practical manner. So, for example, when they say you're now talking to this recruiter and we've scheduled this interview, we're happy. Lola has told us she has 6 years of experience and, she has specialized in XYZ. What next? My interview. I want to treat every interview as it's the first and the last. That's the mindset. You don't want to treat interviews like, well, I'll do another one now. I mean, it's not do or die at the end of the day, but I want to go in with all my energy with every interview that I go to. There's a structure to this elevator pitch. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but this we found out has really, really worked. And our students that have used it as well, they've gotten really beautiful feedback from, interviewers in the past. So we fleshed this, up as we know more, but as at today, this is standard, and this is going to help you. This is going to build your confidence as well, because let's be honest, I'm in this room, there's 3 people in front of me, and they've said, Sataya, we're working on a, transformation project. We really want to, we want to decommission our legacy system and we want to stand up a digital banking platform. So we've seen your resume. Can we meet you? Can you tell us about you? To have a structure or to be very coherent in what you're saying, again, you need to work on this speech. The first thing that you want to be telling them is you want to let them know the years of experience that you've got. I want to let the recruiter know that, yes, indeed, I have 7 years of experience, right? But how do I say that? I don't just want to say, okay, thank you so much. Yes, I've worked as a BA for 7 years. Thank you. No, I want to give them a story. I want to wow them. And there's something that we love to do. We love to go first name basis. So, for example, Ellen and Lola, they're my recruiters, and they've said, oh, Tayo, XYZ. So I said, Tayo, can you start introduction? Can you tell us about it? So I want to be saying something like, oh, thank you so much, Lola and Ellen. Really glad to be here. I've been a business analyst now for just over 6 years, and I've specialized in helping businesses and business owners to deliver successful projects, to meet their business needs. You want to give them something to think about that first instant. And we found out that when you go first name basis, it also builds your confidence. When they see you, they perceive you as a confident person as well. Because, you've seen their name, you're calling them by their name, you're letting them know, I see you as my colleague. We're having a conversation. It's conversational. It's not, I get the nerves may kick in a bit, but I want to go there. I want to just whether or not my nerves kick in, the interview has started. That's my approach to life. Like, even if I'm feeling a bit, shy, which rarely happens, but if I'm feeling not so up to something, if that particular thing has started and I'm there, I'm telling myself, well, how bad can it be? You're there already, so you might as well give it your best, right? So you want to put in all that energy. I don't want to sound boring. I don't want to be monosyllabic. I want to give them a nice structure. How do I sell the fact that I've been a business analyst for 6 years? I could as well just say, well, thank you, Tayo. I've been a business analyst now for 6 years. I have this and that. In the past, we've heard people say different funny, elevator pitch, but this one is going to cover, number one, your years of experience as the first one. I'm going to talk through it. The domains that you have worked in, right? We're going to cover that. We're going to talk about the category of projects that you've worked on in the past. We're also going to be giving them a little bit of a teaser about the projects that you've worked on. Then in this pitch as well, I'm going to market some of my skills and how, I just want to put keywords in there here and there. And you're going to, again, talk about another project that may be of interest to them. I'm going to talk about my professional growth, what I've done to really grow in that area. You're going to tell them about your soft skills, the tools that you've worked on, your interests. And yeah, so that's some of the things that we're going to go through, but I'll break it down and how we can really approach these and how we can make it nicely and how that applies to you as a person. So basically, after they've said, they may not say that, tell me about yourself in an interview, but you need to tell them about yourself one way or the other. So they won't always say, so, okay, so here it is. Tell us about you, or what have you done in the past, or tell us about your experience. They may not always start with that. They may say something like, so, yeah, very happy to have you here. So, yeah, what are some of the tools that you've used in the past? They can even go very random like that. You then want to draw them back. You're not going to directly answer those two questions, but you will give them an introduction, even though they haven't asked for it. That's the approach to. So even if we don't want you to approach interviews like, well, they didn't tell me about yourself, or they didn't say I should, tell them the project that I've worked on in the past. They didn't ask me about my core skills or my soft skills, so I will just answer that question directly. Whether or not a recruiter says, tell me about yourself, you are going to tell them about yourself, because that's the beginning. That's the starting point. Because again, they don't know you, right? Maybe the person that called you is not even on the panel that is interviewing you. So sometimes they won't go direct in that format. They will just really say that this is the this is the question and you have to answer it. So if it's the first question, really, but if maybe they've gone to something extremely different from an introduction kind of question, then yes, you want to answer that question and then you want to tell them about yourself. It's like infusing something that that you would be able to speak to perfectly that would also help them. Most times they leave it nice and blank as well, right? So they let you figure it out because they don't know you. And what happens is with recruiters, they feed off what you're saying. Sometimes they don't have a template of questions as well. So they draw out questions from things that you're saying, from the project that you've talked on. If it catches their interest, they will tell you, they'll say, oh, I see that you have experience in HRIS. Okay, so can you tell me, what was the team composition of that project, for example? So then you want to give them that story. Okay, oh, so with this HRIS, this was what I did. And the team composition was, 2 developers, 1 tester, things like that. But we'll get into that. So does anyone have any questions so far? Any questions so far? Any?
Okay. Is anybody feeling overwhelmed?
Okay, maybe that's another one.
Yeah, maybe we need to check. Although we can't see some of you. I'm not gonna
I can
ask
only see
today.
Lola and
Yeah.
Ellen.
Is anybody feeling overwhelmed? It's really just telling your interviewer about yourself. And what we are saying is We want to give you a structure that you rehearse, you practice, so that you don't have to think about this part of the question. It just comes to you. You can go there and say this confidently, and that settles you into the interview. Rather than they ask you, you don't have any plan, you just go for interview, you're doing last minute thinking in the interview. That will set you very on a nervy path throughout the interview. That's what we want to avoid. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and it's all about the power of storytelling. It's the power of storytelling, really. You don't just want to go there and not have a plan. See, even if you've got 10 years of experience and you want to attend an interview, you still need to have a plan. You have a structure in your head. Like, you may not have penned it down, but I have a structure in my head. Okay, the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to tell them how many years of experience I have. I'm going to tell them the domains that I've worked. I'm going to tell them a little bit of the, category of project that I've worked on in the past. I'm going to move ahead and then tell them how my soft skills would help them, to get to their targeted state. Then I would tell them a little bit of a teaser about what my experience was on working on a process improvement initiative, right? Then, so it's really just about a little bit of structure here and there, and which is going to be very important, because what that does is would have written this, you would read it over and over, not a night to your interview, you're now thinking, oh my God, what do I say in my interview? Right? So it's just about that readiness and preparation. Remember, I said your interview starts from the very first phone call. Once they call you, that's the beginning of the interview. Whilst it is informal, it's the beginning. If they've called Tayo and Tayo has been, she has sounded very underwhelming, they'll go straight to Lola, and Lola is there all fired up with all of this energy. They may not call me back. They may not call me back. Lola may get the slot because, she has given them an impression. Because they also don't have enough time to just say, okay, let's give Tayo a second chance. That may not always happen. Okay, so you want to talk about the years of experience that you've gathered, right? And what you've done in that space. See, again, it's all about not just saying, I have, 3 years, I have 6 years, I have 8 years. No, I'm giving them a nice story. Like I said, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much for asking me that question. In speaking to my experience as a business analyst, I have over 6 years of experience, and this has really helped me, to help businesses to deliver successful projects, to deliver, successful initiatives so that they can meet their business needs. Nice and simple, nice and smooth. You practice it over and over again. It becomes when they say, oh, tell me about your last Christmas, you're not thinking about it. Even if it's not, even if it was uneventful. Oh, last Christmas, oh, actually, I just sat at home with my family, I cooked or I traveled, so that's as much smoothness we want from your elevator pitch. Did I see? No?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think majority of us here, we've done IELTS before, right? And we know the structure, right? When you go for an IELTS, you don't just say, my name is, you understand the sentence structure, the way you need to build up that story and add more information. It is very practical, and that's what we're saying to bring here. So think about it. You're targeting a band 6.5 minimum. You're targeting a band 6.5. How would you answer? Tell me about yourself question, making sure that you are incorporating your skills, your experience, your domain knowledge, and even your personality. You can talk about it as well, right? Some people say, some people asked yesterday, if I was working in a different domain, how can you tell that story? You can say, oh, I transitioned 5 years ago. Initially, I was an event manager or event director, planner, right? And then I saw that, wow, there's a lot of opportunity to infuse tech in this, because I mean, invest management is like project management, etc. I'm just saying, just an example, right? And then you kind of give them an interesting story about how you found that love with technology. and you decided to pursue your career in tech, and then you took a course and you took a boot camp and you learned, and then you work for this company and you improve your skills, and then you work for company B again, and then you improve your skills, and since then you've been building product, working with teams and all of that. Trust me, if, for example, another person that has all the years of experience and doesn't even have a transition story comes and just says their technical skills and all of that, that memory of Ellen that mentioned their journey from one field to another will be powerful, especially if you tell the story in a compelling way. And that's why we're giving you a structure. Oh, I was a disability support worker previously, helping people. But then as I reevaluated my career, I've always wanted to do tech, and then I took a course. I thought I had a lot of potential to actually become a very competent business. I took a course, and then I worked in an organization, building product. I worked on HRS application. I worked on a project to optimize sales and marketing. I had to evaluate CRM system, learning management system. This tell them what the company's problem was, etc. And then by the time you tell all those stories, nobody will say, because you transition, you can't get a job, you can't do this job, because you're backing it up that with those story that yes, you've actually done, you've added value to all this organization. And by the
Yeah.
time you say one or two or three project that you've worked on, wow, that sticks in their memory like, compared to someone that doesn't have any story, that just say, yeah, I have 5 years experience as a business and I've worked on ARP project, CRM project, this and that's it. They might just forget, like, okay, nothing special. We've heard this from everybody has this. But do you remember Ellen? It's actually very interesting that she had very domain knowledge, right? So I think she's adaptable. Let's give her extra point for this. But then you need to tell that story in an interesting way, in a compelling way. Yeah.
Lola.
Oh, Lola has a.
Yeah, I've got two questions. Sorry, I lost my voice. The first one is,
Yeah.
how sometimes the recruiters can ring you before they schedule the main interview for you. So
That's
is
the
that
case.
when I start with my elevator pitch, or is just okay, just
Okay.
listen?
So a recruiter calls you and says, "Oh, Lola, I've seen your resume, blah blah blah. Can you tell me the project that you've worked on?" She just wants an overview, and she wants to mark it and see. She wants to gauge readiness. So you can't tell her everything. We just want to summarize that. Oh, thank you so much, for reaching out to me. Yes, I've actually worked, as a business analyst for 7 years. In speaking to in answering your question, some of the projects that I've worked on includes this and that. But I know you may be particularly interested in, the HRIS. On this project, I did this, I got that requirement, I worked very closely with stakeholders, I organized this, I organized that, I facilitated workshop in order to ensure that, we can bridge, the gap between business and technology. So you just want to throw in a little bit of, keywords here and there, that initial session would be an overview. But to give that overview in a very impressive manner would be really hard if you're not prepared, or if you don't even have a pitch that you read over and over. Even if you find out you're talking and she's so happy, she's gonna say, "Oh no, please slow down. That's really beautiful that you're saying. I'm just taking note of what you're saying." And then she's going to tell you now that that's enough. Like, that's okay. Can we schedule a session with you tomorrow? Because then you've gone above and beyond to now download information. So in that session, you've given her an opportunity to see an overview of, oh, okay, Lola has actually worked in e-commerce, she has worked in health, she has worked in education. Okay, she has also worked on an ERP project, she has also done an HRIS project, she has done integration, she has done knowledge. So she can pick, because she can't listen to everything that you're saying, but she can pick key things. But if you've gone there underwhelming, non-technical words, all she can pick is, well, she's a business analyst. I don't know what else she said. I'm ready for the job. Okay, what else? Do you understand? So that session, that very initial, except she goes into like extra layer of questions and she's like, okay, So your experience with Mac Solutions in 2010, 2015, can you tell me what that project was about and what your role was? Some of them will
Exactly.
leave it generic, just overview. Just give me, just tell me some of the project. Just tell me about some of the project that you've worked on. Then you may go, oh, are you proficient with Jira? Do you know how to use SharePoint? Do you know how to use Confluence? Then you want to say, oh yes, well with Jira, I've actually used Jira for over 6 years. I'm also proficient with Azure DevOps. I also know how to use Asana. As you can agree with me, they're all very similar tools. You want to throw a bit of banter. You're not just saying yes, no, yes, no. You're answering and buttressing in that instance. But even if she's not driving that conversation, you have a pitch that you can work around. You can't say everything. It will be a short phone call, but you want to say enough for you to be memorable, like Noah said. So they'll remember, I spoke with Lola, she highlighted some of the projects that she worked on. She highlighted some of her technical skills. She highlighted some of her soft skills. I'm happy with what she has said. I want her to, meet the broader team to go for an interview. It's about impression and the content of what you're saying in, 2 to 3 minutes. Did
So
that answer
just
your question?
just to add to that, right? So when you get those kind of calls, most likely they are agencies, right? And
Not every
and
time though, like
yeah,
some of
no, yeah, I said most times, right? Most times, like maybe 60% they are agency.
them.
And even when they are not agency, that person that's spoken to you is trying to screen out potential candidate.
Yeah,
And based on what the amount of information you give them and how convincing and you know, how much you demonstrate that you can do the job, that person will now be your advocate to say,
yeah,
how I spoke to Lola, I spoke to Ellen, really fantastic, BAs.
candidates,
They
yeah,
have they have experience working on this. They have this skill that we're looking for. Like, I would like you guys to give uh him opportunity to interview with us for this show, and then you can hear it. They will be your advocate. They will be
yeah,
because you don't know the people that is hiring in the organization, right? So they will now take that enthusiasm, what you've given them, the amount of information, they will now take it there to the person hiring or
to the
the relevant
interviewers, yeah,
stakeholders to say, hey, I found this person really awesome, lady, guy, have all the
full of
skills we're looking
energy,
for,
yeah,
this and that, right? So that is why it's important to always be ready from the get-go. If they are not inspired, they will just say, oh, okay, yeah, thank you very much, and we'll speak soon. That
yeah,
soon, forget it. They are not calling you back. You understand? When they'll call you back, you will know. They'll say something like, oh, can we what's your availability? Or I would like to push your application forward to the team so I can recommend some time to the what's your availability, things like that. You would
yeah,
know that, oh, okay, I've actually got a chance here for an interview. That's why you need to be ready from the get-go, receiving that call, you know, putting your feet on the ground so that they can take your name forward and screen you forward. So that's the important, and it's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So sorry. So is it a good idea to use the same elevator pitch for the first stage of interview, the second stage of interview, and you are saying the same thing?
yeah.
Well,
Because I can answer that. It's your
yeah.
story, Lola. So it's your story. It's just like saying that. Is it a good idea to tell Noah that I have 4 siblings? Is it a good idea to tell Lola that I have 4 siblings? It's your story. That's your life. It's your experience. I can say it however I feel like. It should remain the same. Do you understand? It's just like if you wanted to talk about your university degree now, right? Maybe you have 3 degrees. So you're now asking like, oh, is it a good idea to tell Tayo that I have 3 masters? When in actual fact, you have 3 masters, right? So you should be telling people the same thing, such that if I'm having a conversation with Pius, for example, and we're discussing your education history, we both would have the same thing that we're saying. We're in alignment because it's yours, it's your story. Of course, you can't say one story the same way, the same time, but the idea would be the same. And you're selling yourself
Yeah.
the same way, and it just stays in your head. Like I said, that won't be the only time you'll be saying this story. Trust me, when you start the work, you will still re-say the story. Of course, you won't be saying all those plenty, just summary. Oh, this is where I've worked, this is my experience, I worked on this project. Because they will ask you. See, when you start working, they'll ask you, when you start meeting all the other stakeholders, oh, Lola, you know, great to meet you. Where have you worked in the past? They will tell you where they've worked as well. At that point, it's not an interview anymore. It's just more of a social conversation, just getting to know you at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, also we need to be, I'm sure we are all smart people here. For example, if you've applied to a job where they are looking for someone that has like disability experience, supporting people with disability, building product for people in that space, right? Maybe your elevator pitch, the generic one, does not speak to that experience.
You
You
move
then
things
know that, oh,
around.
I need to infuse it in the conversation somewhere because this part, remember, when you different job want different things, right? There's the generic BA things, but then there are specific things that different. We've gone through that yesterday. So based on that, you need to also be speaking to if someone advertise, oh, we want HRS. When I talk about my project, I
The
would
highlight.
hammer more on HRS because I
Yeah.
know this company is looking for something around HRS. I will really go hard on that, right? Same thing if they're asking for another domain, go hard on that. So those are the minor tweaks that you'll be doing, but the body of your work, of your response will still remain the same.
Yeah. It's
I
just
hope
like,
that is clear. It's just conversation, right? Even though you want to tell me something, the way you tell me and another person, you are telling us the same thing, but it won't be, except you're reading the same script like this every
yeah,
single time. You will make small adjustment. So it's just normal.
yeah. And every time you say it, it becomes perfect. Like it becomes your own story. You say it so much, like it becomes your truth that you're living in. The reason that we have this, you know, the reason we advise, you know, for everyone to have this is it's a confidence builder. It builds your confidence a lot. Imagine they just called me from the blues and said, oh, Tayo, you're speaking in this conference, right? And it's a completely domain that I'm not very familiar with. The confidence that I would go in with if I had time to prepare would be different from the confidence level I'd be going in if someone just called me from the blues. I mean, I would still do it. Maybe they've called me because they think I've got the capacity. But the confidence level, we can agree it would be different because I haven't had time to prepare for that session. But I would still go there and, you know, do what I need to do. So what this elevator pitch does is it gives you confidence. You know your story. Remember, you're going to be competing with other people as well, and you want to stand out, you want to be the best. So I really hope that answered your question, Lola.
Sorry,
Yes.
somebody said, I think it was Cherry that was overwhelmed with the voice note I sent earlier, right? You don't have to be overwhelmed. The difference is everybody you saw talking in the voice note, they also follow this format by going through the elevator pitch, understanding it, and it becomes part of them. And that's why when you hear them speak, you feel like, expert. But of course, preparation is the biggest thing. If you're saying something over and over, you rehearse it, you know what you're saying. Somebody asks you, even when you just wake up, you just download it and tell them freely. And that's what we're preparing you for. So that you begin to speak now and people will be like, oh my God, you know. So this phase is very important. That's why we're taking time to really explain like every single thing. Imagine we didn't have this session. You would then like people majority will struggle because then they'll call you, you're not prepared, you're like panicky, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, what am I supposed to say? All right.
Yeah, very important. Interview starts from, I saw your resume. You know, you switch back to energy, passion, and, you know, someone that is very, very enthusiastic about working with them. Okay. Now we've talked about our years of experience. Now they know if Tayo has got a, you know, wealth of experience. She has worked for 10 years. Now they will be interested in the domains that I've worked in. Again, what that shows, it shows, you know, adaptability, that you have, you know, wealth of knowledge in different domains, etc. And you can always, you know, leverage on those domain knowledge that you have. So, you know, you want to be, it's a layer up, right? Every step of this 10 must haves, it's a layer up It starts from it. It's just, you know how when we're in, I don't know, for those that schooled in Nigeria, like secondary school, they say when you want to write an essay, you have your introduction, you have your body, and then you have the conclusion. That's the way, well, that's where I was taught. So there's a structure. They just don't want you to go through things, right? It's the same thing with this one. So then now I've told them, oh, I have over 5 years of experience. I've said that. So then I want to introduce the domains that I've worked on, right? So I would be saying something like, well, you know, now on top of that, I've also had the opportunity to work in different domains such as finance, you know, education, health, banking, etc. You want to make like a flow of conversation. I should also have that my ability to bridge the gap, you know, between technical and non-technical stakeholders has really helped me to add value to any initiatives I find myself working on. So you're giving them things to think about. Oh, okay, so she understands, she has the ability to work with both technical and non-technical stakeholders, because not all your stakeholders are technical. Like, is that something that we're all familiar with? Do we understand what when I say non-technical stakeholders? Okay, I can see people nodding their head. What does that mean to you? Who's nodding? Lola, what does it mean if someone says, oh, I mean, you know, you're this Lola, oh, are you happy to speak to this non-technical stakeholders? What does that mean to you?
So I'm going to give you an example. Like my technical team are going to be the development team, the IT that I talk to, the vendors when they are talking about the type of applications is using. They're talking about the APIs, the programming languages, the servers they are going to use is on-premise, is going to be in the cloud. So those are my technical. And my non-technical are the users. They are the users department, the people that are going to use the applications. They know what they want, but I have to be in between the two stakeholders to know how to change or transfer or change their requirements into the technical, because they are going to speak in plain language. This is what we want. In our process, we're having bottlenecks. How do we do this? Which applications do we need to? Things like that.
Okay, so yes, they are part of your non-technical stakeholders, but even within your organization as well, there'll be a lot of non-technical stakeholders. So for example, like your business owner could be very non-technical, business specifically. Some of the stakeholders that you may be even like demoing your work to, they may have absolutely no idea what, if you're talking about maybe interface, they don't know what it means. What they just want is a working solution. So your non-technical stakeholders are not just the end users, but even, you know, stakeholders within your organization, you know, that like your bosses as well. So, you know, if you're
The
throwing
guys
in
you're collecting requirement from are also like your business
some of
users.
them may be
Some,
non-technical stakeholders.
yeah.
Some of the, so for example, in the situation that Noah is, for example, if it was to be in another organization, it may not know anything about, it may not be able to have the conversation that he had with you today, because he probably doesn't know that part. All he knows is he wants the working system, but he has given you on an eye level what he wants, right? Okay, I want a system where we can integrate, we can, you know, capture and you really have a good record for our employees' data, something like that. So even your stakeholders, your business owners, business basically, they may not have they could be a part of your non-technical stakeholders. So you want to tell in your interviewer again the years of experience, number one, because this would be a task for every one of us. We would work on our pitch and send it across to us. So next year when we start interview prep, it's not going to be a session like this. It's going to be a one-on-one where we're now testing some of these skills. So you guys would be the one talking to us and we'll be learning from
So
you.
just we've started interview prep. When next year, what she means is you will come for mock interviews.
Mock interviews.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna dress up and come, and people that don't want to turn on their camera will see how you do interview with that camera on.
Yeah. They'll be
So
the
you
first
have
time.
to turn your camera on. So next year is mock interview. Interview prep has started, and I will send some interview question, just high level with the format that you can follow and rehearse and all of that. You prepare.
Yeah.
All right.
So from next year, the reason we started to do this year, so you have enough time to work on your pitch. Don't be scared. We'll review it with you, but you need to do that, groundwork, and then we can review it and say, okay, take this out, remove this, include this. The reason for this is, even if you haven't included it in your pitch, they will ask you. So because again, remember, they don't know you. So they want to get as much information as possible to see, is Tire actually a good fit for our company, for the project that we're working on, right? So then you also want to move ahead and tell them, oh, the project category that you've worked on, type of projects that you've worked on in the past, right? So you want to be saying something like, well, okay, so after you've then told them your years of experience, I've told them about the domain that I've worked in, right? I also then want to say something like, I want to then introduce them to the project category, things that I've worked. I just want to give like a bit of a summary at this point. I want to be saying something like, oh, in the course of my career as well, I've also had the opportunity to work on projects ranging from process improvement, transformational projects, system migration, data migration, ERP project, HRIS system, things like that. So I just want to give a little bit of a dot point. So if you notice, for every conversation that I have here, from the beginning, you know how I'm going to land that point. For example, I've got in my journey as a BA. That means I want, so even if your attention span is low, right? You hear, oh, she's about to talk about what our journey has looked like in summary. See, I didn't just go to, I've also worked on projects like, you want to, a conversation starter. I think Noah used the example of IELTS. When you go for IELTS is telling you to tell us, can you describe the house that you live in? You can easily say, well, I live in a 4-bedroom. That's it. The difference between you that you said I live in a 4-bedroom and someone that's gone to extra details, oh, my house is located here. I live in a white colored house. I've got the bedroom just beside the kitchen, and I've got my working station just in between my room and my child's room. I also have the bathroom. My bedroom is en suite, and I've also got 2 extra bathrooms for visitors. And you've gone into details. So from the beginning, you're catchy. So for me to introduce the project that I've worked on, I want to tell them, oh, in my journey as a BA or in the course of my career as a business analyst, I've been privy to work on projects such as HRIS system. I've worked on integration delivery project. I've worked on ERP project. I've worked on system migration project. So at that time, someone on the panel, maybe a program director on the panel is thinking, oh, data migration, that's interesting because that's what my team is working on. Let me throw some more questions to Lola. See, maybe I'm going to steal out to my team, something like that. So for every conversation starter, it's like a, what's that word now? Like a hook. When they say you've hooked something from the beginning. So if I hear Lola say something like, oh, in my journey or in my career or in the course of I'm thinking, okay, what's she about to say? Rather than just losing me, because let's be honest, not everyone is very optimal every time. Sometimes you just have a few things going on in your head and you're in a boring conversation, you're lost completely. But if the person has got a very good structure to what they're saying, they will catch me and you can, grab them back from whatever la land that they've gone to, right? So now 3 things that we've covered. I'm going to talk about the number of years that I've spent working as a business analyst or a scrum master, dare I say. And I'm going to tell them the domains that I've also worked in. And then I'm going to move into the project category. Now, please guys, bear in mind, this is only a template, and that's why you've got the etc. etc, meaning it continues, but this is the background to flesh up. Of course, we can't write a full brochure on this. It means this this signifies it continues. So it's just a starting point for you to think about. Then you flesh it out however comfortable you feel. But once you're writing your elevator pitch, these are the 3 things. These are some of the things I want you to keep in mind. This is 3 out of 10. There's 10 layers to this, but there's a way you word it. Like, trust me, you can deliver this in 2 to 3 minutes nicely, because you're not going to just say everything like that because you're telling them, but because you know it, you have a lot of words there to play with. you would be able to move around. But even if, for example, a word skips your brain, you can go to the next one. So you have a lot of things to draw from the pool. Does anyone have any questions whatsoever? Again, are we feeling overwhelmed, lost, too much, excited?
Yeah, we need to check at every point to be sure that you're not overwhelmed. So again, it looks like we're teaching IELTS, English, everything inside this thing. Please, let's just note that it's just the introductory part to yourself.
I'm
And
just
we're just
breaking it
giving,
down.
yeah, breaking it down for you to understand why you need to do this correctly so that you engage your panel. And then you too can settle and have a very good experience, which means that you will get the job.
Yeah. Because, you know, let's always keep something in mind. If I want to go out there and say I have done something for 5 years, frankly speaking, you should have a lot of things to say. That's the mindset. So would like every one of us to please shift the mindset of, oh, I've just transitioned or anything like that. Right? On paper, you haven't just transitions. You have been doing this, for years, for 5 years. So you're not going there like, well, I've just come off a training. No, the mindset is I've done this for years, which is why this preparation is necessary. So you can speak like someone who indeed has done this for years. And the way to speak like that, it comes from you going over this over and over again till, it just becomes your own. You live it, wake you up from your sleep. Oh, tell me, what's your elevator pitch looking like? You will deliver it like a piece of cake. Now, we've told them the number of years. We've told them the domains that we've worked on. We've told them the project category. Because if you don't, they will actually ask you. So you might as well just tell them and let them skip through their questions and go to the next one. You also want to get your interview done and dusted and leave, right? So now you've told them, so now I want to give them a little bit, just a little bit. I want to introduce them a little bit into one of the projects that I've worked on. Right, so I talked about the fact that I've worked on ERP. I talked about the fact that I've worked on transformational project, system migration. So I want to just briefly just talk about it, and then I can move to something else, bearing in mind that I will flesh it out later during the course of my interview, right? So then now to talk about, if I want to pick the transformation project, for example, so with the transformation project, which I spoke on earlier, I recall working with this organization. You can give them the name of the organization, or you can give them the domain. I recall working, with an insurance company, for example, who was just merged with another organization. So you're giving them a little bit of a story. So they're thinking, you've been part of a merger. You've been part of a, migration process in that organization, right? So you're just analyzing a little bit. So, it meant that I had to analyze existing processes of both companies, define what the process would be in the future state. And of course, I worked with the development team, or I worked with my stakeholders to see how we can consolidate both systems, in the form of data migration, for example. So it's just an overview of what you did. What did I do? I worked with this insurance company who merged, right? They merged. And what I did there, my role as a BA, again, showing your skills, analyzing existing processes, taking them from their as is, to their to be. So you want to use, some core BA terms like that, right? So then you just want to give them a little bit of a teaser, just an overview of that, and then you can see something like, that's what, working with this insurance company. I was able to help in consolidating both systems in the form of a data migration. I was also able to get the, understanding of the architecture of the system, their databases, the APIs, system integration. I'll be more than happy to share more as we go. So this is just an example from, my own, so you just think about it
Just that,
like that.
yeah, sorry, just an example.
This is
Just
just
talk about your own. Talk about your own. So good thing you guys have experience now.
Yeah.
HRS, just talk about what you did in HRS. Oh, remember the project problem, the context. Oh, this company, they have operations in Nigeria, Australia, this and that. You had problem, manual process. You embellish it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
the company has 1,000 staff, and then, but if it's 1,000 staff, you can't go and say that we have a manual process on Excel. That's madness.
Yeah,
That
that's not realistic. So I won't put a
that's
figure. I won't put a
so
figure to that.
you just say, oh yeah, they were using a legacy system that was not efficient for their HR process. Like legacy means or legacy or
Legacy. So
legacy
you
means
would
that it's an existing system that is not the old system that
optimal.
we need to
Yeah.
phase out. That have reached end of life. So you can be safe to say legacy system. They wanted a new HR system. We had to do two comparison to know which one would better suit the requirement of price or cost, optimal requirement for performance management. You talk about all those things, employee
Pictures.
management, leave, timesheet, etc. And then you talk about your role, what you did. You organize workshop, you requirement gathering session,
Not too
So
much at this stage.
yeah,
Not too much.
just summary as you get into the groove. Well, there's not too much. If you're happy to share, overshare, please. But they read their language. Some want it to be like, oh, brief. Some enjoy it, like, yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
So just read body language, when to stop as well.
Yeah. So the story there, from what Noah is saying with the project that you guys are working on, so I'll be saying something like, oh, with the HRS system that I worked on, this organization had a legacy system that was not scalable, it was outdated and it wasn't optimal at that point. So you're giving them the problem that you as a business analyst was trying to solve. Now, what are some of the things that you did? You did the analysis, you did comparative analysis, you did this, you did that. So you just want to give them a teaser. I facilitated workshop. So, I organized workshop with the different stakeholders to understand the existing process, to understand what their pain points are, and see how I can bridge that gap. So you can, so just nice and brief like that. And if you see that, oh, like Noah said, reading the room, but at this point we're giving teaser. But when you're writing your story, you will write those projects out separately, and then you will just infuse them into your elevator pitch. So you have your project, you have your elevator pitch. So 3 projects or 2, which we would give more, but we don't want people to be feeling overwhelmed right now. So the whole point with telling all this type of story is 2 things. With my own story that I mentioned, the insurance company merged. That's the problem. They've merged. They're now 2 companies. 2 companies became one. They need to have one single source of truth, or one single source of system doing a lot of things. So meaning we have to do a lot of migration. We have to do a lot of rebranding. There's a lot of work that needs to go on there, so we can now appear as one company. With the HRIS, the problem is with the legacy system that is outdated, not scalable, not able to work with. It's not serving purpose. So the problem, and a little bit of what you did, then you flesh it out. What did I do? You analyze existing processes. You did this, facilitated workshop. You recorded this. You did that, as from the lens of a business analyst. So we've done that. We've done the 14. So now I want to tell them that, oh, I also have
Let's just check that they're still with us. Are we together? Is this making sense? Do we
Yes.
have questions? Really, we've just buttressed on 3 or 4 points. All what we've been saying is really, it's 1 point, but just telling you the different part to it. So please, let's not be overwhelmed.
I think someone has a question. Oh, okay, Sharifa. Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, making sense. Good. All right, continue. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We need to check to see if this is
Yeah, because
overwhelming.
when you send your elevator pitch, please put thought into it, articulate. This format should help you articulate your thoughts there. It doesn't have to be this way. Like, please
This is
don't
just
write the same
structure.
thing. Just express it, what you're comfortable talking about that is detailed, that's all. And just practice it. We'll review, give you some feedback where applicable, but do a good job. And we trust you do a good job. Send it, let's review, give you feedback, then you practice it, and then that becomes any interview you give them.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. So you have to make it your own so you remember it. If we want to write elevator pitch for everyone, you guys, it won't work. So you need to own
No.
it and make it work. But we have a structure that you just follow. It's just like populate your own information there and work on this thing that we've done. Again, so it would be really, really, if you're talking about, we met with these stakeholders, I engage with stakeholders so I can identify business needs. I perform gap analysis. I did my requirement elicitation, put together my business requirement document, things like that. You're showing a lot of value, you're showing a lot of understanding of what, you will be doing on that job. You're telling them that you worked closely with the Scrum team or, your team generally to deliver artifacts to ensure that there's alignment with project objectives. We talked about project objective to align with project timeline, things like that. So we're throwing in words like that, but we'll be definitely able to support you. Okay, so then you go to, your core BA skills, right? It's the same format. And that's what I've just talked about. They'll be interested in, okay, now you've worked on this project, but which of your skills did you use? How did you infuse those skills, right? So, and you want to tell them that for this to happen, to ensure that, the product will really, really speak to the pain point of business. I did this, I did that, I identified, what are the needs? What's the gap here? I did the comparative analysis. How did I do it? I did it through, requirement elicitation, gather requirement, got understanding from different stakeholders, working closely with my team as well, with the team that I'm working with, to ensure that what we're doing aligns very much with the objective of the project. At the end of the day, you want to tie it back to the project objective. Why are we doing this project? With the HRIS, now you can't just do something for the sake of doing project. It needs to be solving that particular pain point, which we have talked about. So that's the objective. How did you do this? I did this by, writing my requirements, my epics, user story, my acceptance criteria, doing backlog prioritization, and ensuring that I'm contributing effectively and taking initiatives in this agile ceremony. So you've told them what you did, you've told them how you did it as well. Again, it's the same format. So we're going to go to the next one, which is, again, talking about another project that you've worked on. So the HRIS team can now talk about the second project that the other team is working on, and you guys can mix it. That can serve as your second project. You give another teaser of the project which you have worked on. So again, for some of us that have certification, you want to put that somewhere and just to show that, okay, you're very big on continuous learning. Yeah, you want to infuse it in your pitch as well. Or in talking about some of the steps that I've also taken, you might go towards continuous learning. I have certifications as a professional Scrum product owner, professional Scrum master, and that speaks to my professional growth, something like that. So you just want to ensure that there's a progression. It's not just pick and drop conversation. It's a progression. You're using linking words. You're, playing with words around. Additionally, furthermore, in speaking about this, things like that, you want to include that into your pitch. And then you also
don't give people PTSD from my head to this linking word.
Oh.
It's not IELTS, just express
it's just an example of how we can structure it. So I say that because so there will be like a progression of what you're saying. There will be a good flow in your pitch. So
yeah,
again,
just kidding.
it's not a blanket rule. All I want us to get is the idea. So you don't have to follow through 100% all that I'm saying, but I'm just saying, I'm just trying to let us know that it has to connect. There has to be like some form of connection because again, you will be reading this pitch to yourself. It needs to make sense in your head. for you to be able to deliver it to other people, right? Okay, I'm being very cognizant of our time. So you're also going to talk about your soft skills. And how do I bring in my soft skills? How does that relate to anything? Again, when your elevator pitch, you have a standard pitch, but when it gets to the context of the job that you're applying for, I want to ensure that the things that I'm saying speaks to what they're looking for in the position description. If they've continuously hammered on someone that has strong ethical awareness, for example, or someone that has a creative mind, or someone that has got a very strong, effective communication skills, I want to ensure that I infuse that in my pitch. Bear in mind, you already have a standard template, a pitch that you've prepared. The continuous work there would be, oh, maybe I've applied to Westpac, for example, and Westpac hammered on some soft skills that I haven't included in my pitch. I will try and then include it. Maybe they've talked particularly about someone that has, like I mentioned, ethical awareness, or someone with a very strong, someone that has someone that's very empathetic, for example, right? I want to ensure that when I'm talking about my soft skills, I'm going to include that, right? Or have a proven track record of contributing to project success, through my strong and effective communication skills, my collaboration skills, and my creative thinking skills, right? So you want to just make sure that, remember, I've talked about my technical skills, my requirement gathering, my gap analysis. Now I'm telling them that, oh, on top of this technical girl, I also have excellent soft skills, because quick story, there's this, I had my program director was talking about someone that she interviewed, and they were sort of like doing like a debrief, and they said, well, yeah, the person was good, but I just had a bit of concerns with the culture fit, and she was just like, oh, the person, even though this person was technical, in terms of culture fit, in terms of their soft skills, she didn't think she could work with that person. So that's also a factor. So it's either the person has not highlighted it properly in their interview, or the person just does not have that demeanor. I don't know, what that's look like. So we have to ensure that we talk about that, and we also display it. Your soft skills, they're inside of you, they're embedded inside of you. You can always bring that up. So very quickly, before we go to the next session, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just be real, be friendly, and just
Be
smile.
warm.
Yeah, be warm. Smile like Lola, like Ellen, like they smile
Yeah,
every time, like it just really helps. It helps you, it helps everybody.
it does. So you need to have a very warm demeanor, smile with them, make jokes with them, during the interview, make it very lively. So you'll be memorable, they'll remember you. Even when you've gotten the job, they'll be like, oh, I remember you. She was so full of life. She had a lot of energy during the interview. Now, we also then want to tell them about the tools that we are very proficient at using, right? So you want to quickly infuse that as well. Now, most importantly, this one is always a selling factor. Your interest in their company. It shows that you research their company, you research about their company, you know the product that they're trying to deliver, you've then analyzed how you can contribute to that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So I've seen this beautiful job on Seek that I love. Now they've called me for an interview. I want to go the extra mile. Oh, what are they trying to do? Right? They're trying to deliver, they're trying to work on a digital banking platform. I've now gone ahead to see, how does Tayo fit into this project? What will I bring to that table? So you want to end your pitch by telling them you want to display a massive interest in their organization and what they're working on, and how you fit into the puzzle. Interviewers always, always, always love this. because what that means is you're not just thinking about yourself, you're also displaying that you have the interest of their company in that heart. And you've done that extra work to go and research about what they need and how you fit into that puzzle and how you can help them solve that problem. So I always, if it's a customer-centric solution, for example, you want to be throwing things like empathy, like, that's how you can actually deliver a solution that speaks to people's needs. Interviewers love people that can show that their soft skills is just as important as their technical skill.
Let's give them example.
Do you want to give or do you want me to give?
Yeah, you can just give them like how you bring empathy into the value of empathy to deliver value for them.
Okay, yeah. So you can say something like, oh, I've also noted that in the course of my career, when creating user-centric solutions or platform, my ability to understand and empathize with the end users has really helped you to foster successful and satisfactory product. Because what that means is what you're telling them is because you've then you've put yourself rather in the shoes of the end users and also the custodians of this solution, the stakeholders involved, and that has helped you to think about it very broadly. So you're telling them that when you're creating user-centric or customer-centric or member-centric, centered solutions, you have the ability to be able to think like them, think like, okay, maybe if you're in the health sector, for example, and you have a platform where people's lives is very dependent on that, you're not just thinking, let's just get it done. You're thinking about the users of this thing. I want to ensure that people get the best value for it. Financial system, even any system whatsoever. It's always good when you can display that you have that ability to understand that system from the lens of the users, not just from the lens of a analyst or from a business analyst perspective. Let's just do my job and get it over with. So you want to speak to that in an interview. I've done my research about this interview. I've looked for what they're actually looking for, because one of our students did an interview and, I think it was with an energy company in Australia. And he did that extra layer of research to actually look to see how he would be able to contribute to that project. And he talked about it in an interview. And that was a differentiating factor for him, because when they gave him feedback, they said, we really loved that you did that extra research on what we're actually delivering and how you can add value to that. So it's very, very important. Before I round up any interview, I will let them know how I intend to support their vision, how I intend to ensure that the solution or the project or whatever they're working on would come to fruition, like we would deliver it successfully. So you want to ensure that you include that by all means as the closing point for you, not for the interview, for the elevator pitch. So, and this is how I intend to, work with this organization to ensure that I'm able to support the vision of the product that you're wanting to launch or deliver, or things like that. Talk about some of the things that we use.
So thank you, Tayo. Like just to buttress that as well and add a few more points. Like just think about the organization. Whenever they advertise a job, they want someone that can actually do the job and add value. Now, most people will just go and talk about their skill, what they've been doing, etc. in an interview. But if you distinguish yourself, whenever you get an interview, go to that position description. For example, if this is an HR project, or let's just say this company builds application for people who have disability, and you already have experience there, right? You have experience, for example, in that sector. You research, even if you don't have experience, you research, okay, disability, what are the problems, in
Yeah.
this area? How can a business analyst add value to this kind of domain, all of that, and you've gotten one 2, 3 points. You can empathize with their customer, which are people that have
Exactly.
disability, for example. And you're saying things like, oh yeah, I've got experience working as a disability support worker myself, so I understand the needs of people with disability. And I know some of the struggles is that, for example, they are not able to use many conventional application
Yes.
like website because some of them cannot read the text or some of them cannot do some things, right? And say, oh, when I'm thinking about requirement from that perspective, I'm also empathizing with that set of user as a business analyst. I intend to bring that user-centric approach to any application that I build, for this organization. That is that key thing because I know that at the heart of anything we do is our user, which will generate more profit, etc. Does that sound like something that a company would like to hear, right? So now apply this to if it's finance as well. Oh yeah, maybe a bank. Oh, I've checked out your mobile app on the App Store, and I've seen that you have this feature to transfer money to do this. But I realized that there's no notification for this, right? I think that these are some of the things that we can we can implement
Bridge.
to make
Yeah.
our customer better and all of that. You are, of course, with fact, you've done the research, you know exactly, one thing you cannot say. Showing them that will quickly display what? Extra value.
Yeah.
Do you understand? They will be so impressed, like, whoa. Oh, actually, everybody else have talked about their skill. Yeah, yeah, these two candidates are good, but remember, this person went ahead and
And
immediately
research
talked
the
about.
company.
Do you understand? It is very logical and it comes from preparation, thinking about how do I differentiate myself from these other people that are coming for interview. So it is a very powerful approach. Give back. Tell them what you give even before they employ you. So that when they don't, if they are thinking about 2, 3 people, they are saying, wow, this person, this person already did extra work.
Yeah. That's very extremely very, very valid because even when they ask you and say, oh, do you know anything about our company? Don't just say, no, actually, I was waiting for you to tell me. You just want to show that, oh, I read about you, even if it's just their mission, vision, what they're talking about. According to the PD, that's only so much that you can do anyway. But I won't just go there and say, oh, actually, no, I don't. Even if you don't, you never say. You'll be like, yeah, actually, I read a few things on SIG. That is me assuming that you absolutely did not read it or you couldn't remember, but you want to embellish and say, yes, I did. I read about it. You don't necessarily have to say if you don't, but just normal things. I could see a few things that the organization has been up to. Just make something up, but don't say no, I did not. It
Don't
just
say things that are not
it,
true, though.
it,
That
yeah,
can
but
mar
just
the whole thing.
generic,
Yeah.
and just say, yeah, I did. Spend a few time squeezing through it. I'm more than happy to, listen from your lens and see what the organization has been up to. So that way, but it's always good to read about them before going for an interview in case typically they probably don't, but if they do, like, oh, do you know anything about us? Yeah, so at least you can speak to it. So those are all the 10 things that I wanted to cover in terms of your must-have for your pitch. Your years of experience, your number one, the domains that you've worked in, your project category, give them a teaser about the project that you've worked on. Of course, market your core BA skills. Talk about another project that you've worked on. It shows range. It shows 5 years of experience. It's not possible that you've worked on one project for 5 years. That's not possible.
And the companies as well. Mention the company names, all of that, so they
Yeah.
know that, yeah, it's not just one company
Yeah.
that
So
you've worked
you
in for 5 years, so that they don't start to quiz you and ask you too many things on that.
Yeah, so they don't say, oh, is that still in with Max Solutions or something or Justin Solutions? So you can go domain, you can categorize by through domain, or you can name the company like Noah said. Then you want to talk about your professional growth if you've got any certification, right? You want to then move to your soft skills, the tools that you've used, and you want to show that you've actually researched about their organization, and you want to talk about the empathy that you're bringing on board.
Sherry?
Sharifa.
Yeah, I want to ask, what if you worked for one company for 5 years or 10 years, or you've just been working for one company? Is there an
Well,
issue there?
no issue really, but I know that's not the case for most of you, right? That's why we're saying that you should not just stick to one. You'll be
And
hard to defend. There are
and
people
even
that,
if
yeah,
there are projects that would have gone on within your company in that 10 years that you'd
yeah.
have been a part of.
You can't work for on one project for 10 years. That means there's something wrong with you.
With
They
the
can't
company. Yeah.
employ you like that.
Lola.
Yes, my question is actually the truth. So how can one covers the gap in employment while you are talking about your
You,
years of experience? Because
you
that's the number one under the must have. You are telling me to say I've got 8 years working of experience.
no, don't say
No,
it
that's
like
a
I
that.
template.
It's a
That's a
template.
template.
You can say 5 for us here.
It's
Most of
the
us should just
example
stick to 5 years. And the way we do this is, first of all, we look when you start to build that template
resume.
resume, you can use some of the organization you've worked with in Australia. It's perfectly fine. However, like I said yesterday, rather than put XYZ that you're doing that's totally unrelated to BA, put something related to BA title, and it doesn't matter. You're not going to go there and collect reference. You're going to collect reference from us.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to collect reference from us. Of course, if you've done a good job so far, and we can vouch for you, because credibility issue, we don't want you to go there. But I believe most of you, some of you still need one or two things, but most of you are ready. Anyway, so use the companies that you've worked, even if you did work with company ABC, charcoal and whatever, and it's in Australia, and you did disability support worker, just put business analyst, put your role as a business analyst. Then if you want to play safe and, oh, I just want to use an Australian company, you have to sync skills, just in solution. No gap in your experience, please. 5 years minimum,
5
everybody.
years, yeah.
You have two companies you can use now. We have our email. We're a proper company registered here, ABN, as you know. So there's no issue there. We can do reference for you.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly legitimate because most of you have actually worked on project. And that's why we give you opportunity to work on project so that we can vouch for you, right? And that's why I'm saying if you've not worked on project, you've not done assessment, we will not be able to give you reference. That's our own internal criteria for qualifying for those kind of things, right? So yes, so there are ways we work around all of those things that then, because yeah, when the reference check comes, we will then do that check for you easily. So you have option of using us, or you use your current company and then just put us as when they ask you for reference, of course, we will be in that conversation. You will tell us, share the news, then we'll tell you next step. Oh, send my name, send Tayo's name, all of that. We were colleague at Charcoal and Coal, whatever, 3 years ago, and we do your reference checks for you. If you use Jacint or Sync Skills, good, even easier.
Yeah.
You just use any of us. Yeah. So
Thank
is that
you.
clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So
Sharifa.
okay.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, don't they check qualifications, like when you finish school and all that, if it aligns with your experience?
They will check. Did you just finish school?
No, I didn't just finish school, but
Yeah, we'll work with you and see what the
So
specific.
we'll work on your resume together. So bear in mind that you could be studying and still be working. There are people
Yeah.
that work in my organization that they are part-time and they're like, yes, they're like part-time student and they're working full-time. So
uh,
the mindset is quite different from Nigeria, where you need to do one thing before you do another thing. In this sort of environment, you can do things concurrently, like it doesn't matter.
No, that's wrong. In Nigeria, we do two things too.
No, I
I
mean
did
like most
masters
times,
and
well, that's just like most times people do you finish your first degree and then you start working. Whereas in Australia, some people are actually working and still going to uni because maybe
yeah,
they went to school at like 23. But whereas in Nigeria, you finish at maybe 15 and then you go to uni straight off and then you start working. So that's what I mean. All
yeah,
right,
fine. So Cherifa, that's not an issue, right? To
mhm.
just work on. It's not an issue.
So just
You're
the last thing. Oh, Rachel.
okay.
So I just want to confirm that, okay, so I'm not up to 5 years in Australia, right? So can I say I've been working as a BA in Nigeria before coming to Australia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's a relevant experience. Yeah, so
Okay.
absolutely you can. You
Any
can.
other questions?
Yes, I've got a question. So, how many years are you happy to cover up for us?
Just
5.
any
5 years.
like you can do up to 5 years.
And I'll tell you the metric,
Um,
because okay, you're gonna
tell them the metric.
okay, so really, so if you wanted to use like 1 year, for example, or two, that would be considered more like as a junior role. So even if it doesn't say senior business analyst or business analyst without any, a ranking, you probably won't get called. And from yesterday's session, if the ATS, if they're looking for, if they specifically called it out and said we're looking for someone with at least 5 years of experience, and your resume says 0 to 1 or 0 to 2, once the software scans it and reads 2 years, you're automatically dropped into the no potential bucket because you won't, the chances of that resume getting to a human table is like 0.0. It's extremely low.
Like,
If you're targeting those type of jobs, right? But that's why we typically recommend go like, 5 years at least, or you can go 4 to 5 years, but we typically just go 5.
yeah. Is there anybody here that does not have 5 years working experience? Because I'm trying to see what is there anybody? Because
I don't
I
have.
think okay, that's fine. So we want everybody to go on for the main like band in terms of
Big
salary,
bang. Yeah.
yeah, experience. That's why we're saying that, do all your assessment, make sure that you're up to speed, make sure that you have that skill because it doesn't matter if you've not been doing BA specifically for 5 years. What matters is can you do it?
Can you defend it? Do
Can
you
you
know what to
can
do?
do you know what to do? Like, can you do the job? Like, if you are faced with the job, can you do it? If you can do it, it doesn't matter if you're 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Some people have quality experience. The things they can do in 1 year is like you will be surprised than people that have worked for 5 years. You can work in a company for 5 years. Like, think about it, local government, yeah, like in that kind of vibe. You might be doing only one thing for 5 years where you are not growing. Whereas you go for a boot camp 3 months and you have gone through hell and fire, you've done different things and you can do it. And I tell you, we have a lot of interns in our company that the things that they can do right now in like 1 year of joining, some of them 2 months, some of them 3 months, they will tell you the things they can do. Like people that have had different exposure, different level of experience in another company might not have opportunity to work on such project. You know, we have designers that are still in school and they're already like doing amazing designs here. Whereas some people that maybe they work in a company and the company just does only website and that's the only thing they've done.
Mhm.
They don't have a lot of experience. That's why we emphasize on your skill. If you do all the things we've said. You go back and refresh and make sure you're on top of those things. You can do it in your sleep. You can claim 5 years easily. You've been working for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. The fact is, you have domain knowledge that are now transferable. Domain knowledge is key. You will find out
Absolutely.
get a job. So the domain knowledge is fine. Your experience doing whatever in any domain is good enough, as you've seen. So the point now going forward is be able to demonstrate and continuously learn and develop your skill. It doesn't end last week that we finished the class. I forget how to write requirement. I forget how to use my illustration technique, etc. I forget how to draw flow. I forget because NOAA is not asking for assessment. That is, you're not doing me, because when they give you the job and you call me that I can't draw flow, I will ask you, what have you done? What research? What is, I'll ask for your input first before I help you. You understand? And you're the one that will shake on the job when they are asking you. So you need to prepare for that moment. You get the job is one thing, but thankfully nobody from our training has ever lost a job. So please, you need to constantly stay sharp, right? So all these questions you're asking is, you know, it's immaterial in the scheme of, can you do the answer? The ultimate question is,
Can you do it?
can you do the job? You can do the job, nobody cares. Like, oh, 5 years. There are people you meet on the job and they have graduate diploma. That's their highest form of education, I'm telling
Yeah.
you,
Or certificate 3.
or certificate 3. That's what they've got. They don't even have certification. That's all they've got, because maybe they got in as a customer rep and somehow they developed skill, they did internal transition and they got opportunity and they became a BA. So that happens.
Mhm.
Rachel,
Thank you. So I just want to ask, um, let's say for a job advert, and on the job they've listed the criteria of everything they want, and I went ahead and prepared for that. Is it possible that on the day of the interview, they will ask me questions outside the scope of what they have listed as requirements on the job adverts?
That's a very good question.
you
So
can.
the position description, let me tell you what that looks like. It's just a copy and paste of maybe what they have in their repository. You need to just be prepared. Like they may not necessarily ask you, okay, so they've listed that they're looking for someone that has maybe data analysis skill or something. They may not necessarily ask you things like that, but it would be, along the lines of what they're looking for like a core base skills, for example, and they could go extra layer, but they always have their own questions, which is why preparation is key. Now, the things they'll be asking you will revolve around the projects that you've worked on. So you need to have at least 3 projects, off the top of your sleeve that you can use. And you need to, Noah is going to share some sample interview
So
questions.
I think to do justice, let's just go to that because of time. So I will show you a bit of sample questions from some of our students, um, uh, some interview questions basically, and then we will just we have a few minutes to close this session. Yeah, is that fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just go, but let me just quickly tell them about what to say to round up the interview. So once you're done with this interview, they would go like, oh, do you have any questions for us? So it's extremely important to not say, no, I don't, thank you. Even, which is why you need to prepare at least 2 to 3 questions to ask them. So when they say, okay, so, we've not come to the end of this session. Thank you for attending this session. Have you got any questions for us? Would you like to ask us anything? In that moment, you want to go, oh, yes, actually, yes, thank you. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you both, Lola and Ellen. It's been really insightful learning more about your company. I just have 1 or 2 questions, if that's fine. And they go, yes, please go for it. So then you want to ask them a few things that you would have prepared. Again, it's all about having banks of questions in your head. 2 or 3 is fine. So you just want to ask them, oh yeah, now thank you so much, for giving me an opportunity to ask a question. I just wanted to find out, can you tell me, what the work environment in your organization looks like? Or you can say, oh, what's the team composition? Or you can ask them, what stage? I know you mentioned we're talking about this project. Can you tell me in detail what stage we're at? Your the team is on this project. You can even throw a question to them and say, oh, Lola, this question is for you. Can you tell me what you love most about working with Combank? About working with this organization. So they'll be happy you asked them something personal you've asked them. You can, just anything, but I don't have a question. And don't ask them, so what's the pay like? So how much, so what's the per annum? Don't ask them that. I know that probably what will be, they will tell you once you're successful. Or they would have told you like, okay, what's your salary range? 150, 160. But when they say question, don't say, so I just wanted to find out, so how much would you guys be paying me per annum? Or when will someone get back to me? You don't need that. They'll tell you themselves. They will let you know. So you want to ask a relevant question. You want that an interviewer is a very valid and a very well thought of question. They will tell you, wow, that's actually a very, very good question. No one has asked us that before. So you want to always, like Noah said, always leave an impression. You want to be memorable. Like you just want them to say, you can remember that person that we interviewed. She was the one that asked me about, how a performance will be measured in this position, or what I love most about working. And you get them to think as well, like, oh wow, okay. And what do I love most about actually working here? They think, they bounce with you, they smile with you. So one soft question, okay. I'm just curious to know, how will my performance be measured, if I'm successful in this position? What's the success metric? What would success look like for the successful business analyst, that'll be working in this role? So you want to ask them things like that. Please do not ask them for the salary range. Do not ask them for, so when will you get back to me? Now, they will tell you that anyway. So you want to ask them something else, something that shows value, something that shows, yes, I'm thinking about, I'm more forward thinking. How would what would my typical day look like? Or what's the typical day look like for someone in this position? And how would you measure my performance? So what would you categorize as successful in the first 60 days when I join? If I'm successful, how would my performance be measured? Things like that. So we're going to share this template as well. Please, this is only but a template. You don't have to over-engineer this and think, but I don't have 8 years of experience, but I don't have this, I don't have that. It's a template for you to work with. Give you the 10 structure that you need to, paragraph your elevator pitch. There are other questions as well that we'll be sharing. Noah will be talking about using the STAR method. There are some questions as well that we have that we'll be sharing with you, but this is just the base
What
question
did you say?
that we want you to work.
Stop.
So it's very, very important that we
I'm not done cooking.
employ the
See
strategies.
why Rachel doesn't turn on camera now. Rachel
That
is in the
Rachel has been
kitchen
cooking.
cooking. Eh? You're not done cooking. Okay. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
We thought you are in class, so you are cooking.
Cookie. Okay.
I was cooking before and the
Uh,
class came on, so I'm just seated here like I'll continue later. Sorry.
That's so
okay.
good. That's good. I
Um,
muted you just in time. I was looking for you, like, oh, where is she, but all good, all good. So yeah, I really, really hope that we haven't felt too overwhelmed. Remember, it's the starting point. We have the template. You work on it. You send it to us for a review. If you want, please send it to us during the holidays. We'll be happy to review from 27. So that'll be good. And then next year, when you come for your mock interview, please, when we go, tell me about yourself. Or we don't want to hear, my name is Tayo, I'm a business analyst. No, we want something concrete. detailed, you go into the details. So we'll work with you during the holidays. I mean, you know, if you're happy to send it to us, that's fine. Yeah, that's really all, Lola.
Quick one. So this slide that you put on now, that's where my question is about the questions that you can ask them.
Yeah.
So what if the table goes around and turns to me and they're asking me how does my typical day as a BA, what do I do? You know, I'm just thinking, I don't know if they can ask though, but I'm
Tell
thinking
them
what
You tell
they
them what
have.
you do.
what you do
So
as
this is what I'm thinking. So do I need to run them through the process, or I
Okay.
run them through the particular points? Like, okay, at the requirement gathering at this point, this is what I do, or I run them through the whole.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting that you asked that. But at this stage of the interview, they're done interviewing you, right? So let's now assume that maybe someone gets very happy, or because they only have like 40 minutes for this interview. Right? At this time, they probably have 5 minutes left. The chances that they would then flip it back to you, because you would have talked about what you do. They would have already learned about that, about your, you know, your role, your skill as a BA. Remember when we were talking about your pitch, you've talked about some of the things that you do. That's typical. They're not interested in what your typical day looks like. They're interested in your experience and how it's applicable to what they're doing. So the chances that, yeah, but yeah, you
yeah,
go.
when you finish, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
but
add
if
to
you
yeah.
if at this stage of the interview, they won't then turn it around and so what does your day look like? There's no value in that for them at that point, because you've already told them. You've told them about gathering requirement, you've talked about gap analysis, you've talked about stakeholder engagement, you've talked about your communication skills. They've asked you all they're interested in. Now the session, they're about to end the session. At this time, they probably only have like maybe 5 to 10 minutes left, and they want to give you an opportunity to ask them something. Where some will say, no, I don't, which means you're not like really interested about the job if you're not asking them anything. But you want to ask them this quality question. But if they do ask you, you're then going to, which very unlikely. I don't think I've attended any interview where they've now flipped the script and start to interview me again at that point after they've said they're done. Now your turn to ask a question. So you just tell them what you typically do. But there's really no value in them saying what does your typical day look like as a business analyst at the end of an interview, because there's nothing they want to do with that. Your typical day doesn't tell them anything, but more inclined to your experience and your skills and how that aligns with what we're looking for in our company. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying is not at
let
the
me
end that
just
they asked me, maybe in
Oh,
the middle, yeah, that they asked me this question.
if they ask you what your
okay.
typical day looks like, yeah, like she has said, they will not ask you at the end because you're the one asking. So basically, it's to talk about all the things you do, and that is not a straight answer, right? So, for example, you tell them, oh, depending on what stage my project is, and for example, if I'm at requirement gathering stage, assuming that we've just kicked off a project, my typical day would be me, having sessions with different stakeholders, to understand their business requirement and understand, brainstorm on ideas, etc. And I would go for a couple of sessions,
Yeah.
validate requirement, document some requirement, draw some flows, validate it with my stakeholders, etc. Right? So you kind of infuse what you do as a business analyst in there. Do you understand? And if it's like, oh, if it's now like, oh, my project is now in flight mode, like in development phase, for example, I would be supporting my development team, by clarifying requirement, updating the backlog, making sure that my stories and the requirement are robust and are good, adding all the acceptance criteria, validating it with business stakeholders, making sure I'm drawing flows to give clarity to my development, anticipating risk, things like that.
Yeah.
It's not like one straight, because business analyst role depends. It depends
It
on the
depends on where
project,
you
then
are.
depends on the company, depends on the stage of work at a particular time. So, it's just to talk about it that way, and then
Yeah, the starting point for that really is because your day, you don't have 2 days. So you want to show that, yes, I have the experience. If they ask you that type of thing, you just let them know it depends on the stage of my project. If it's in the discovery phase, this is what my typical day would look like. You can even make a joke. Well, I typically start my day by, having a coffee. They will laugh. And then you go into
yeah,
like, the technicality. Okay, so,
yeah,
I may have some sessions lined up, meet with my stakeholders, try to finalize. If you have a PM working with you, try to finalize with my PM what our project charter would look like, developing the business case. I work on, identifying some of the gaps. So you don't just want to say, well, my day, because your day is not the same, depends on the stage of the project. So you want to highlight at that stage, this SDLC that we talked about in class, right? The life cycle of a project, you want to circle it back to the life cycle of that project. Depends on the stage. I'm a coffee person. I'll typically do
yeah.
that. And then, I'll check my calendar. As you
I'll
would
have
know,
my bath, I'll do makeup and have
no,
coffee, and you can say
you
that
can
for
bounce about
real,
it,
like
they'll laugh.
That have
seriously,
makeup.
of
It's the,
course, like
it's
you
the way
can,
you say it.
yeah,
You can say
you
like, I love to, look good and
show
dress up
up,
very nice.
yeah.
So yeah,
I'll
fashion is life.
Of course, now they are very like lovely people. Australians are, well, you might not always meet Australians on the panel, but like they they like gist, basically. They like
Yeah,
to know about you as well. So if you can infuse humor there, you become memorable.
you'd
Yeah,
be
like
like that. Yeah.
I have
I
my
told
sha. I
someone,
like to show up.
Yeah, I told someone in an interview that I was preparing for my friend's baby shower. And she kept,
Yeah,
even when I got the job, she was asking me, so how was the baby shower? Just to lighten up the mood. Because I got into this interview and she was like, well, let's flip it around. You ask me questions. I'm thinking in my head, wait, what? I came here to be asked a question and you're telling me to ask you questions. Then yeah, it can go either ways. It can go
yeah,
either ways. So I had to start, okay, so what stage is the project in? Tell me what are some of the challenges right now. So she went into that. And that was it. So it's not a one size fits all. You want to show personality a lot. You
yeah.
want to show them that it's not just, yes, my day is, because that's not realistic, right? Like, it's not realistic. Your day is not the same. You want to
If
tie it back to the
mm,
life cycle of that project and the stage that
if
you're
if
in.
somebody wanted to do a content about a business analyst, typical day in a business analyst, we they just start with project bam, sitting on laptop, pressing requirement, right?
Mm,
No, they will do the whole. So think
dress
about
up.
it that way. Actually, they like it. Like that's why you need to shift your mindset from I'm going to a war. Interview is not a war. If you
Yeah,
have opportunity for humor, right? And
keep
even
it up.
your tell me about I like to party. I like to organize party. I've said it before in interviews. I like to play soccer. And one time I broke my hand, so I stopped playing for it. They will laugh and it settles so they like to hear about those things as well.
Yeah, it shows
Of course, you
confidence
need to
too.
know the balance. It's not now you turn the thing to mind you and like I've gone for interview where and the person was like, oh, and I said I support sport. And I'm like, what team? And I said Man U. And then we went on the banter like, oh, Man U are not doing well, this and that. We laughed and then we came back to the conversation. So they like people that would even break the ice, like add
Yeah,
those kind of, oh, I love cooking. I like dabbling into cooking as well when
yeah,
I'm not working, you know, end it with that. Oh, I like playing tennis when I'm not working. Oh, I like cooking for my family or traveling when I'm not working. Because remember, they are like they might be working with you directly. So
mm-hmm.
everybody likes to work with nice people, like
Yeah,
people that have personality, not work, every time. So seriously, like it's a very good thing to infuse in your response.
yeah,
Add humor if you can do it with balance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Has to be right balance, right balance. Really. Okay. Does anyone have any more questions? Like I said, we'll share this template and We'll be looking forward to you putting together your elevator pitch and your resume, please. So the resume first and start working on your pitch. So we
Please,
want to
two
start
things
reviewing
now.
resumes.
Resume, pitch. Just tell us about yourself. You
Just
can
tell me about yourself
research
first.
it, you can use ChatGPT, but of course, be authentic in your words and all of that. Seriously, now I'm giving you free rein to get ideas and all of that, but make it your own, make it something authentic, make
Something
it
you
something that
remember.
you remember, not ChatGPT words tell you this. I now read it and say that
I
I
don't.
have 50 years experience. I've worked on launching a space rocket application. They now ask you, oh,
So tell us
tell
about.
us about All right, thank you. We've got
Okay.
another meeting.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, guys. I hope you got value from this. Looking forward to your success story very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, please.
Ha.
So, I was personally looking at. I thought the meeting would start by 6:30. I didn't know you had already sent another notification on Slack. So,
Yeah.
are we going to have Are we going to have access to this?
Always.
Always. We'll share with yesterday and the resume, all of that. We'll share with you guys shortly. Please.
Okay.
Now I don't want to be following up or like with you. Please take it seriously. Do your resume, first draft, send it, do this elevator pitch, send it. So you start to apply, and then so that when you start to get calls early next year, you start to know how to
Ready.
respond. And then we continue with the prep. I'll also send you sample interview questions. So you can just, it's a template though. It's not like I said, it's a template. It's not, you have to think about your project and infuse it, but it gives you a structured approach to, oh, this is how I need to answer the question. Right. So
Can
yeah.
you put that slide?
Huh? This man too is outside. Okay.
I just
Alright,
have a
guys.
question.
Okay.
When are we meeting again after this? When are we meeting?
So after this, we don't have any meeting until the new year. So, but if
The first
you,
meeting would be your mock interview session, really.
yeah, we might just do
Which is
one.
on 8th? Is it on 8th or
No,
which day?
to be confirmed. To be
We'll let you know,
confirmed.
but
Yeah.
we all resume back 8 latest. 8.
One-on-one.
Okay.
The interview is mock interview is one-on-one. Oh, you and yourself.
Yeah. But everyone
Everybody
has to
will
be there.
join, but you will be in action, you'll be in play.
Everybody
So,
will be listening.
of
So
course,
they can
we're in a
learn.
panel.
Lola, you'll be the first one.
Yeah, that's why you need to prepare.
No, they should not listen. They should just send them the video afterwards.
No,
How will you learn from other people
everybody
as
will learn
well?
from each other.
Everyone will be there. No.
No,
Yeah,
send
yeah,
us the
so
video. When they are done, send the video to the
Yes.
team. We'll watch later. They should not be there. I will
we want to
hide.
create that nervy environment for you. So
Yeah.
I will hide, really.
Okay, so are we having our training with Israel tomorrow?
Well, that's up to you guys. You guys can determine that with you.
Got to run, guys. Thank you.
All
Bye,
I have a
everyone.
question.
What question?
Sorry, when is the certification? When is the
See,
exam?
Did you receive the email for preparation? Are you ready? If
Yes.
you're ready are you ready tonight?
Oh, any day we are ready.
Yeah.
No, but are you ready to take the certification?
I will not say I'm ready, but okay.
Okay. So you have 2 weeks to
You
read
have to
that.
be ready.
So very quickly, let me just give you what that looks like for everyone. So for everyone who is doing the certification, for some of you that are doing it, the structure is the comms that you received is for you to prepare. 2 weeks after that, we will then send you practice questions, after which you would then be obliged to send us the screenshot of your practice questions. So you need to have a desirable score for us to say, okay, yes, you're actually ready to take on this certification. So there are some questions with 100 questions, 80 questions. They simulate the real life questions. So you need to do those questions and you need to send a screenshot.
I thought there's a practice question already. I've started.
Yeah, now
doing
that one is just like a demo. That's a demo. The real one that simulates the real exam will be sent to you once you've read those materials, the EBM guide, the Scrum guide, and the other links that were shared. So you need to read those. The practice question is only, I think, 15 questions or 30. It's not a
Yeah, I
lot.
think you sent that one. I've
Yeah.
been doing it for.
Yeah, that's good. But please read the EBM guide. Please read it over and over
Yeah.
again, because by the time we send the other practice links, those are more intense, and those
Okay.
will give you like, you know, exactly what the real question would look like. So you need to be prepared now. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed by, you know, layering up lots of links and materials. But yeah, so you can reach out if you guys have any questions. We need to jump off now.
Yeah,
So
just
whenever I'm ready, I should let you know, or
Not whenever you're ready. There's a timeline. So we're counting.
Oh.
So the materials were sent to you this week. So you have 2 weeks to do the studying, and your third week would be when you get the links for practice. You have 1 full week to do the practice, and in the 4th week you start to write your exam.
okay.
Which certification is this you're talking about? Sorry.
I'm talking about the Professional Scrum Product Owner, the PSP one.
Okay, is that the only one?
That's the only one.
Okay, all good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. Thank you guys. Lovely. There's a lot to do, as you've seen,
There's a
but
lot of
there are
work.
very easy things to do. And when you do it once, you get familiar, and then you just start to apply, and that's the joy of it. You're planting the seed for prosperity. And then yes, we will celebrate, I'm very sure. So put in the work, and then the more work you put in, the faster it is for every one of us.
Yeah.
So
Two
next,
videos will be sent. Please watch it. One for resume, one for this. Please and please watch it. It reduces the overhead effort for everyone. So when we're reviewing, Lola is laughing. Yeah, because it's very important.
so please watch before question. Watch, do your resume, and do your pitch. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Oh,
That's
Merry
true.
Christmas
Merry
to you guys.
Christmas. Merry
Yes.
Christmas, guys.
All
Bye.
right.